Welcome, adventurers and fellow world builders. My name is Yadro, and this is Yadro Gaming. Today we're going to be meeting another one of my players. This is Dylan. He's created a character named Shey, and she is really interested in that she comes from the Feywild, and she landed in one of the settlements that we made during the Quiet Year. And we're going to get to hear about his inspiration, about why he chose her to be the way that she is, how he's incorporating the new with the old, and why she's with the party. We also just talk about a lot of different topics involving D&D, so it should be a lot of fun. Let's see what Dylan has to say. Dylan, thanks for jumping on and taking a little bit of time to talk with me. I would love to hear a little bit about Shey and how you came up with her.
So I play Shey. Shey is an eladrin or eladrin artificer or artificer or artificer in the various ways I've heard all three of those pronounced. I would describe her initially as a very curious person. She's trying to find the beauty in the world, trying to find something new, something fun, to the point where if she's seen something before or done something before, it's definitely boring, interesting. Desaturated is a term that I've used a lot with her being an eladrin. That would be, it's a very physical representation of how she goes through there. For her development, when I came in for the Quiet Year, I genuinely had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew Artificer, like that, and I was like, and even that, I was maybe 60 to 70% sure that that's the class I wanted to play. Because I recall when you put your initial request out on Facebook saying, and this was when we did our first campaign, saying, hey, don't come up with an elaborate backstory or anything like that. I was like, okay, cool. I'm doing nothing. I know what an artificer is, and that's what I'm, intending to play. So I really had no idea what I was going for. And then as we went through the Quiet Year, especially with Morricone, my assigned settlement, we got a little bit into the glass, we got a little bit into the wine. So I was, trying to put this through. I'm like, okay, I kind of want to do artificer. So maybe if I move to like a glass blowing way, that's a fun way to do it. And how she interacts with the world is with her glass blowing. She can make art. She can make her artificer infusions, and that's that was the big idea behind the character in general. A big inspiration is Chihuly as well, the Dale Chihuly, the glassblower. And when you see a lot of his works, and he's like a lot of rounded edges, a lot of nature in the glass blowing that he does. And I was like, well, if this guy could put magic into his works in the sense of how D&D does magic, because as far as I'm concerned, his works are magic. That would be this. They would be infused. They would, be shooting fire or shooting out electricity, doing whatever. So that was a big part of that. So I did want nature to tie into her backstory quite a bit. And then Feywilds, and I think I'm still figuring out like what did her settlement in the Feywilds, or was it a camp? Was it a city? Were they nomads? And that's something I'm like, I still don't have a really good idea on, but I do know that like there was a community that she came from, and they were definitely very well tied into nature.
Do you think they were more tied with like the spring, summer, or the fall, winter? The way you described it, it kind of sounds like spring, summer.
Yeah, definitely spring, summer. That being said, I do keep Shey in autumn as her default season, but we'll say that's more functional than anything else. I do like being able to use charm as an ability. But yeah, I think that the tribe would rest normally in their spring and summer.
Okay, awesome. I really like that, and I think that you'll find a good use for it later with some of the ideas I have brewing. So I think we're on the same page right there. So let's talk about kind of your development so far. We're in our fifth session now. We're working our way through, and you had mentioned it really briefly after one of the sessions that we just completed, where you felt like in the previous campaign, your character Umber, you were kind of the first one to jump on the plot and like take the story in a certain direction because you wanted to go visit this one particular place that had something for you, and the whole party just kind of jumped on. And this one, you said you feel a little bit more like a passenger. Like, could you just jump into that a little bit?
Yeah, and that's certainly not something I'm complaining about. It was just more of an observation about differences, and it is definitely a little bit strange. I find myself struggling for her motivation beyond, oh, I just want to adventure, and that's fine. I think it's a valid motivation. But it's also in contrast to Umber, who was like, this man who's laden with so much survivor's guilt on, from his father, from his settlement, and it was just like everything he did was, I need to make up for this horrible thing that happened, and I feel awful that I'm still around and everything bad is happening to everyone else, and that gave me a very clear idea of what his actions would be. And with Shey, it's a little bit more, this this looks interesting. This little painting on the wall looks interesting, or I've never seen a forest act just this way before. I wonder what's going on, and which is interesting because that's a lot more, it's Dylan react to something. I'm very curious and, I wonder why that icicle is melting that way. I'm going to go check that out. So I am struggling with it from Shey's perspective, but I do think there's an interesting contrast, and it's how I live my life in a curious way to go and look at things. So it's, maybe there's a subtlety to that motivation that it's hard to role play in D&D. Because if I say I'm going to go check out an icicle on a building, I think I'm going to have 5 people looking at me like, cool, that's fun, man. You go do that.
Well, it's not like other players aren't doing that right now with their characters and some of the stuff they do. So if you ever find something you see interesting, you let me know and I'll have a way to work in it.
All right.
So I think in the questionnaire that I sent out at the beginning, which, first of all, are you anti or pro questionnaire?
Oh, 100% pro questionnaire. I think it's great. It level sets. There are times I think when you put the video out and I watched it, I was thinking, yeah, but what if someone disagrees with this? Are we going to act on something here? Especially with the homebrew rules. I'm like, what if someone doesn't want their character to be killed? But that's, I mean, maybe they don't play. Maybe we figure something out. But yes, I think pro questionnaire. I like doing it. I like seeing everyone else's responses as well to see where I fit with it. So I think it works pretty well.
Okay, awesome. I just like to hear it because I really like it, and I think it allows me to make a game I think that everyone would enjoy because we're all on the same page, and I can incorporate a little bit of what everyone wants. So I think it's like I want to play with these 6 people, so I want to find a way that I can and a way that everyone will enjoy. So I think it works out really well.
Sure.
But I think in the quiet year you had responded that, and this kind of ties back into Shey and her background a little bit, is that you wanted like an extra planar threat, and you wanted to be planeswalkers a little bit and explore a couple different places. Can you tell me, is that just something that Dylan wants, or did you use that into the motivation behind Shey?
That both 100%. So that's something that I wanted, and I've wanted, honestly, since the first campaign to go to the Underdark. That's when I was like, let's head down there. This seems fun. I've read some of the books that are some of the Forgotten Realms books that are that's the setting for it, and I think it's a lot of fun to explore. That in the Feywild as well. Just how I love the insane logic of the Feywild, and I think when I was researching on it, to make sure I wasn't doing anything too crazy. One person had commented, try not to think about this too much. If you want a slice of cheese, you grab a ladder and cut off a piece of the moon to get cheese. I'm like, okay, cool. I can work with this. And I think in my backstory, there was, I had originally written it out because I'll admit here that, AI assisted in my backstory, but I put in the, 15, 20 events that happened in Shey's life, and then said, hey, fill in the gaps here and make this more readable. But it said, like the Huli tribes, the Huli tribe had this ritual to replace the moon, and the AI read that. It's like, well, that's insane. That can't be what's going on. This needs to be replace something resembling the moon, or like an honorary moon. I'm like, no, I meant the moon.
Yes.
Which and building on that with when we were talking about the imbalance of the seasons, I'm like, well, yeah, so the moon's getting tired. It needs to be replaced. Like, clearly, there have been 3 solstices already this year. So.
Yeah, I discussed that a little bit in one of the backstory videos that I either put out or I'm about to put out very soon. But in it, I discussed that a little bit and how the summer, the Sealy courts have been in control for a while now, and they're like refusing to relinquish their power. And I think it's kind of interesting that your tribe is a spring summer tribe, and they are probably, kind of caught up in the fun and the excitement. And if your tribe is the one that's like in charge of like, okay, like maybe it's time that we raise the moon, or we replace these things, that you are kind of directly in conflict with the powers that be that want to prevent that from happening. So I think that's going to be really interesting. So hopefully, Underdark, we got a couple players with ties there. We have you at the Feywild. There's this mysterious ship that crashed not too far away, and in the last campaign, you guys had ties to a similar ship. So who knows where we'll end up in this campaign, but we'll see what you guys decide on.
I was very happy in the Quiet Year, because I remember I placed, like, there was an earthquake and an opening to and then, like, there was an opening in the mountain after that. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, like, I want this to be the Underdark. I've placed this here, but I can't say earthquake cave, it opens to the Underdark. I'm just, pigeonholing that way too much. And then 9 was like, yeah, that leads to the Underdark. Yes, got exactly what I was going for. Thank you.
I didn't know that that's what you wanted as well, because he wanted that specifically for his backstory. So that is so funny that you were on the same page.
Yeah, I was hoping someone would pick that one up, but I guess I could have said, like, hey, yeah, this just goes to the Underdark because I want to go here later in the campaign. But I do think it's more fun that we got other people involved as well.
Oh yeah, and that's like the whole point of the Quiet Year, because I think Mike, when he was putting the artificer stuff in Ambermere and telling them how they were such good smiths, like that worked out perfectly for Kyle and Penny. So there were just so many times that you guys did stuff that helped out the other player with their vision, and it's like, yes, this is what I wanted. This is why we do the Quiet Year. So tell me about your thoughts of the campaign so far. So you are from Morricone. One of like the underlying themes right now is this wine. Like, what is going on with it? What kind of ramifications are there? But I'd love to hear your perspective on what you think is going on in the campaign.
So the wine, to be honest, I have no idea. I've been trying to figure it out. Because I feel like you've been giving a few hints here and there, and I am trying to think of something like, well, how does Shey see this, and how does Dylan see this? And it's honestly, I'm kind of just like, I know something's up. I know something's getting poisoned. There might be something from the Quiet Year that I'm not remembering here, but it's I'm hoping I get some more answers from that when the party does eventually travel to Morricone, which I'm assuming we're heading all the settlements. I think it'd be wild if we didn't, but
yeah.
When the party eventually makes their way there, I think we'll hopefully get a lot more answers as we dig into more on the Caymans. But right now, I am kind of liking the slow burn, but I don't have a whole lot of answers. 5 sessions in, and I know we're currently pending one of them immediately following session 5, because we did take that bottle of wine. Feelings in general for the setup, I'm liking it. My concern is a little bit more on your end. And this is something I was thinking about session 1, and really until we made our way up to Brelwood, I was like, does Jason have enough to chew on with our backstories? Because I think about half of us aren't really from the region, because I came to Morricone only a few months before. I know 9 was, brought over to Teleron not too much before the campaign. So I'm like, not really there, not like really a citizen of the area. Again, in contrast to my previous character.
So remember when I was like, hey guys, you have to be from one of these settlements. And 3 of you said, well, I'm not really from one of these settlements.
Sorry.
I was like, oh, okay. That's fine. No, but to your point, some of you don't have super elaborate backstories in the settlements themselves, which is fine because there's other places that we want to go that you do have included. But the little that you did give me from each of the settlements is enough to play with, but it's also nebulous enough that like you haven't pigeonholed me. You know what I mean? Like I know that glass and sand is really important to Morricone and they have the wine, but that doesn't tell me a whole lot about the rest of their structure and what the actual place looks like. So as we're heading there, you and I can have a conversation of like, this is how I view this place. Tell me how that plays into what you thought about what this place was going to be, and let's build out from there. And it can be a little bit more like one-on-one collaborative based on how you've been viewing the settlement yourself.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the other nice thing is that I don't have to prepare all of that like right now. Like you have not bit on anything to take you back to Morricone yet, so I can hold off on establishing that part of the world until we get there.
Yeah. And I mean, Shay's already seen it. She's like, oh, it's fine, it's great, I like it, but there's more to see in the world.
And we're seeing much of the world. We've been to 2 of the settlements now, and we're on our way to the 3rd. So that should be pretty exciting. You said that you liked that there was a little bit more of a slow burn in this campaign, because I think typically, like in a D&D campaign or another TTRPG, like sometimes the action is just like go, 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 go. Like I got to get to the next objective. Like none of you even have like birthdays or anything, because you don't even have time to age. You just get from like level 1 to 12, in 2 months, and then you're off to going. But like I think right now we're already in, it's been like almost 3 weeks in game, and we're only in the 5th session. Like we've kind of delved in a little bit more to what travel between town looks like, having a little bit more downtime. Like, are you enjoying that, or is it kind of on the tedious side? Because like I just want to get to the next settlement and I just want to do it.
It 100%. I'm here for this slow burn, and I think the pace that we're doing it is ideal, because it gives us chances to do like the reason I messaged the group after and said, hey, this was a really good session. This is like why I play D&D. Is we probably spent 15-20 minutes role playing, getting excited for a show at the theater, which like Shey had established. Yes, it's gonna be fun. This will be great, and this getting the reactions from there, and it's just not. That's not what you think with tabletop RPGs. It's like, yeah, I can go see a show in real life. I'm like, yeah, but this is fun, and so that was a big turning point. I'm like, this is good. This is a something that is happening because this is a slow burn campaign, and we can get have these fun moments, and really just build out the details of the world to make it feel more lived in.
Absolutely. And I think like all of you, I think we did take 10 or 15 minutes where we all just like decided what you guys were wearing and what kind of dresses and like suits you guys bought when you were in the nice seats. And like Mongo was shirtless under his like jacket that he threw on because he's a monk and that's just what he's going to do. So you got to see like a lot of personality coming through, and that's probably something I didn't do so much in the last campaign, because I wanted us to just like be moving, like be focused, like we're trying to survive. We got all these problems blowing up, but like this is the way that we can have one of those like 40 plus session games if we chose to go that long, is because it's not quite breakneck. You guys have a chance to breathe, explore your characters a little bit, have these little fun moments, and then make you care that much more. So when we get into those tense combat scenes, or like a man bat breaks through the wall of a theater, you're prepared to deal with that.
The man bat definitely threw me for a loop. The what Shey had originally gone to the theater for, I was like, oh yeah, that's because I started seeing the Caymans talking. I'm like, oh wait, I was supposed to be spying on them. I was just gonna follow them out. Oh dear. But that's all right.
Yeah, so you had a plan initially that you were going to try to like turn invisible, teleport over there and grab one of the full bottles of wine and get out of there. And I think you just bailed on that plan at some point because of the greater threat going on, right?
Yeah, and I spent every moment of that fight that I wasn't actively fighting debating, should I be taking out Man-Bat or should I be going after or continue with the initial plan? And that was, I don't know. We ended up with the bottle of wine. We didn't get to overhear the Caymans. I'm not going to dwell on it too much, because we will find a way or we'll fail, and failure is part of the game too. So figure out one or the other.
So someone else just mentioned in one of the interviews that I did, do you have a backup character in mind?
I absolutely have a backup character in mind. He lives in Morricone.
Okay, another Morricone. Awesome. Would you care to share like the race and class?
Yeah, he's I didn't have a race, probably human, but he's like a duelist fighter. Think giant Hercule Poirot mustache, perfectly coiffed hair. He has a bit of a southern gentleman accent that he would be obliged to share with you. So
I love it.
I thought it'd be a lot of fun. Bringing the Val Kilmer in Tombstone would be the big inspiration for that one. But that's the one I have as backup. We'll see. I really like playing Shey as well. I don't have him fleshed out too much.
Okay, and you are someone that doesn't, like, Shey is not your baby. Like, if she were to die in combat or something, like, you wouldn't have to take, like, 4 weeks away from the game before you came back, right? Like you would just say like, oh, that sucks, but
I'd be upset that I spent money on a mini, and like, yeah, crap. But I mean, and I would be sad because she does seem like a very likable person, and I think there's a lot to tell with her story. But I wouldn't like flip the table or get mad. But like, there's some emotional investment in in a character, which I'd be concerned if there wasn't any. Like this isn't a one shot character, but I'm not gonna lose my mind or anything.
and you haven't had to deal with a character at my table yet. But let's say Shey would die, heaven forbid, and you'd have to make up a new character. What would you think if like the party did end up going to the Feywild and interacting with these things from your backstory that you no longer like get to, kind of experience first person?
I would be upset if we didn't, because I think it's like Shey is absolutely an established part of the game, and if we're not going to the Feywild, that's a big part of the campaign. I would really like to go through with. So definitely want to go there, and it would just make sense to interact with somebody who already has an established presence in the game, even if they did die.
And of the other 5 players at the table, who would you think would like tie that loop in? Oh, like this is Shay's tribe. Like we should pay respects or yada yada. Which player do you think would do that?
Darren, but when he's in his high class proper drow form, I believe would understand the etiquette. Potentially Miss Candy. I don't know if I can speak to Nine and Mongo in terms of etiquette. And I know they're going to listen to this, and we're going to get the Discord and be like, "What do you mean I don't have etiquette?"
I think those are safe guesses. I think that would be Darren or Draven. Depends on which cap they're wearing.
And not to exclude Kyle, I think Penny would just be like, "Well, got to get more food still." So, I don't think Penny
carrots.
would yeah.
Do you have any questions for me about the campaign or D&D or anything?
So, the big one I was going to ask is, like, do you have enough to chew on for the characters? But we had discussed that already.
I think I have a lot to go on, and I think it's because, like, whether you guys knew it or not, in the backgrounds that you gave me, like all of you gave me NPCs, organizations, you gave me locations, and quite a bit of like role play things about your character that I can touch on. Like when you guys had the fight with the will-o-wisps in I think the 3rd session, I was able to pull in background elements from the 3 of you that were affected, so that you would kind of have that moment to start bringing your backstory into the game. And we haven't even like been to your locations yet, so like I can make up infinite things, but it is helpful when the things that I make up, like you guys are able to identify like immediately and grab onto. So if I drop like little hints around, or like when you get excited at the table and say like, well, what is that bottle? Like, what does the label look like? And I'm able to say like, oh, like you recognize it as one of the fancier sort of wines from your village. We can establish those little connections so that there's, those little tendrils of your backstories throughout the world. So I got a lot of that. And if I ever need more, I'll reach out to the players like individually and say, hey, tell me a little bit more about this person. Tell me about the Huli tribe. What were they like? Or give me another NPC, and we can play off it that way.
Okay, that makes sense. So I did have one question. It's a very, very functional, or like just mechanical question for the game. But this was something I was very impressed with in campaign 1. Has continued on for this one, of to set the stage for the one game of D&D I've DM'd in my adult life. I had a lot of trouble like just picking the creatures that would live in the world. And I was like, oh, this person, they're going to fight a human, and then fight a human, and then fight, oh, wait, a goblin, and now a human. So when we were going in, and I'm like, oh, there's just all these different creatures they can interact with. They all have these environments. Is there a mechanical way that you like pick those out, or is it just a lot of intuition you have from, a decade plus of DMing and longer playing? Or is there a secret to to what you're doing there?
A lot of it is intuition. That's right. But then with you guys, like some of you I've played multiple campaigns with. So I'm always like, I don't want to say struggling because that's a strong word, but I'm always like trying to give you guys challenges that, you haven't faced 100 times. Like, I don't want to throw more rat folk at you guys because you guys have dealt with a lot of those. I don't want to just do like goblins. So I'd rather reskin it or homebrew some stuff to keep you guys guessing. But like the Sasquatch that you guys fought, the variation of that just like fit in really perfectly with the area. Like I have plans for the fire elementals, like the black kudzu that you guys ran into, those like assassin vines. I was able to reskin those how I wanted them. So I try to be kind of as intuitive as I can be, without, making it like kind of cartoonish or too tropey to where you guys can like automatically guess. But like the basilisks at the very beginning, that was just something that I wanted to throw in there and give you guys some like little boons, to make the fight survivable. And like I homebrewed them so that they would be young versus being adults. But like you guys are kind of right by this desert with these mountains nearby. I'm like, I think that is where basilisks would live. So that works out really well. And they just like wandered down from the hills to these forests. So just any like little nuggets like that I can do that make it just kind of make sense, I think helps. And it kind of feels like that's what you're describing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the varying it makes a lot of sense as well. There've been a few moments, I'd say more so in this campaign, where it said, oh, it's regenerating, but we dealt it fire damage. And I'll just kind of glance over and be like, we don't know that. But
yes, I have the opportunity to just say, well, if my players know that, then I can change it. And that's not the way that it works. And it can still do whatever. Because I have a couple of you that are experienced with me at this point, but some people at the table have played like a lot of D&D. And I need to make sure that they're not guessing everything or making those little remarks that you just commented to. Of like, oh, like we should use fire, or no, like use radiant on them because then this won't happen. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that, so I appreciate you keeping it under your breath when you thought about it.
I mean, it's only my second campaign. I don't know this stuff. It's when Umber tried to put the undead asleep. It's like, oh, well, learned something today.
And that's part of growth. That's part of the game. That's good. And then Dylan carries that into the future, and then I have to worry about you then.
Hey, Shey has very high intelligence. It's reasonable for her to know.
So the last thing I have for you on my list is that you had mentioned that you are your problem player archetype, and I wouldn't even say that this is a problem coming from you. Like if you think it's a problem, you're more into your head than I am. But you said that you were a jokester, and you're one of 3 jokesters we have at the table for this campaign. Can you talk about that a little bit and why you labeled yourself like that?
Yeah, for one, it was the best fit that I saw there because like I'm not going to step into the spotlight, be a spotlight hog. I am going to do everything in my power not to metagame. I think at a certain point, you're playing a role playing game. There's a certain level of metagaming that just happens. I'm trying to remember that's the one that did feel fit the best. A lot of it just based on my inexperience with the game at all. And then this is something I'll see in like it. I had a boss talk to me about it at work. He's like, hey, I don't mind that you crack jokes, but keep in mind that like he said he would notice me occasionally losing focus in meetings for the sake of like putting out a well-timed joke instead of actually going for that. I'm like, oh, that's a problem. I need to address that.
In D&D, not so much. You're allowed to joke a little bit more.
Yeah, and that's where I was. I do think it's the one that fits, and I think especially when a few of us like will start bouncing off of each other, I know that can be like irritable, and I don't think it's too big of a problem, but it's also. So I guess I could ask you this: Do you think that there's one that is better suited, having gone into 1.2 campaigns with me? If that's not putting you on the spot too much.
It's not, and I would agree with you that it's hard. Like I don't think that you necessarily fit the schema of any of those. Any of those archetypes like really fit you all that well, because like I wouldn't go. I'd hate to say like, oh, you're like kind of like an ideal player, but I think that you're kind of cautious to not be a problem player. Like I think that you want other people to be involved. You'll take advantage of opportunities that you have. You like keeping it light at the table, but you know how to turn the switch and be a little bit more serious. And like you're relatively new and excited and like wanting to actually engage with the story. So, I don't catch you, on your phone or like unplugging from a scene that we have. So I think the jokester is probably the best fit for you, but compared to some of the other people we have at the table and like how we really get off on tangents, I don't know how many of those you start I think that you'll like make a joke and we'll laugh about it and then we'll keep going, but you're not like a derailer. So I guess that's what I would say about it.
So I will admit I do unplug from the table, but it's as I was reading our the session 5 notes, is you're talking about Nine and Darren going to the mill. I'm like, I was zoning out. Like, and I'm sure I was looking at my character sheet, like deciding what I was going to have for the next day. But in my mind, I'm not there. So if I don't have a good recollection of this, that's okay, because there's no reason my character should know this. So that's kind of the mindset I have for, when we're doing a one-on-one scene or just a couple people. I'm like, I can take this time, I can rest, so I can have my focus for later, and that's usually how I approach that. That was going to be my third question for you. So the other one I had, again, going off of the one time I've DM'd, and I realized I don't get a break. So, and I think I've started to notice when you do it, but I've also often wondered when do you take your break besides like going up to use the bathroom, but like, or are you just hyper focused for 5 hours on the game?
I'm pretty focused for the whole time I'm doing it. I mean, I do take like short breaks to go to the restroom or I'll get a drink. Sometimes I just like to put you guys in situations where like you guys will have to interact with one another. Like anytime that you guys are, and you're really good at this about saying like, I want to have a moment with, Penny and talk to her about this. And that is when I can like take a deep breath and kind of sit back and relax a little bit. But like you have mentioned in the past of like, oh, I thought you would forget things, but you kind of remember everything. And it's, that's because I'm really focused on it. And like, I want to lock in as much detail as I can because I need to remember a lot of it. And that's part of my joy from it. But when do you think I'm checking out?
It's during that, when we have a moment where we're all kind of talking and planning among ourselves. And I think if it clicks for you and you say, this doesn't need to be my full attention, I can breathe for a second and make it look like I'm paying attention. And I don't know if I was accurate with that, but it's like, I don't know if Jason's like just taking a second to breathe and it's going to come in with a suggestion or like, hey, are we good here? Do we need to move somewhere else? But like just, taking 30, 60 seconds there to zone out.
Yes. And I would say like, that's when I kind of have half my brain on you guys. So I can kind of keep track of what's going on. And then my other half is like thinking about the next encounter or the next scene. Or if I see you guys starting to like lay a few tracks down, then I can play catch up as you guys are like solidifying the plan and I can start to build out, everything. So it's still kind of improv-y, but I try to, take advantage of all my moments so I can get ahead of it. So then I'm ready for when you guys actually decide to go down that path.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you're very in tune.
I'm trying not to pull back the curtain too much, but
no, that's fine. That's why we're doing this. Thanks for hanging around and listening to our discussion. I had a really good time with Dylan. I really like his characters and I like having him at the table. I think Shey is a great example of a little creative spark that came up from the quiet year that we turned into a whole character. And we have this really interesting tapestry to pull from as I put them in different situations in the world. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, why be a player when you can be a god?